The children's chatter was a bright, heartbreaking counterpoint to the hostile silence of the adults. My hands, still on my grandchildren's shoulders, felt the tremors of their confusion. "Dad," Adeline's voice cut through, cold as the January wind. "What are you doing here?" "I live here, honey," I said, confusion turning to a sharp, cold certainty. "They released me this afternoon." Carl shifted his weight, avoiding my eyes. We weren't expecting you tonight." The elderly couple, Vera, Carl's mother, and Eldon, his father, approached, studying me with calculating eyes. "Complications." Eldon scoffed under his breath to his wife. "Grandpa, we went to that new pizza place." Tommy tugged at my cardigan. "I saved you 2 quarters to play next time. And I drew you a picture of a heart." Lily bounced on her toes. "But Mommy said you might not want to see hearts right now, but I think you will because it's a happy heart with a smile." Adeline's jaw tightened as she watched me with the children. Carl kept checking his phone. "Your mother and father," I said, nodding toward the house. "I saw their things in my room." Adeline stepped forward, her face utterly devoid of warmth. "They'll be staying there permanently now." "Permanently?" I repeated. "Adeline, where am I supposed to sleep? I just had open-heart surgery." Her gaze was flat, meeting mine without flinching. Her next words, though quiet, were the most brutal betrayal I had ever known. She pointed a hand, not at the $1 million colonial but past me toward the back corner of the yard. "Now you'll live here." I followed her pointed finger. Illuminated by the flickering streetlight, nestled near the back fence, was a small, crudely built wooden structure, a doghouse. The betrayal hit me like a knife in the back. My knees threatened to buckle, but I braced myself, my grip tightening on the children. The $1 million house I had helped them buy, the down payment that came from the sale of my own home, the 2 years I spent supporting them and babysitting my grandchildren, all repaid with an act of cruel, shocking malice. "This is outrageous, Adeline," I whispered, the words catching in my surgically damaged throat. Vera stepped closer, her voice shrill. "Eldon and I need a first-floor room, clean and quiet. Your dad's little apartment is the only one that fits. This is a family home and we are family." Eldon grunted agreement. "You were just passing through, old man. Time to move on." Carl finally spoke, his eyes still glued to his phone. "Dad, we need the space. And Mom and Dad are helping us out financially now." I looked at Adeline, seeing not my daughter, but a stranger. "You gave your mother's parents, the ones I haven't seen in 2 years, my room? You offered me a doghouse." "It's a storage shed, Dad, with a lock," she corrected as if that made it better. "You can put your cot in there. It's temporary. My belongings are here." "I moved them," she said dismissively. "The storage shed is adequate. We don't have room for a full-time live-in babysitter anymore." The children, sensing the storm, clung to me, starting to cry. "Grandpa, don't leave," Lily pleaded. "Go inside with your grandmother," Adeline ordered the children. Tommy hesitated, but Vera quickly ushered them toward the house. I looked from my cold-eyed daughter to my spineless son-in-law to the smirking in-laws. I said nothing more. My years in the business world, my time with Martha, my military training, all had taught me the value of silence when cornered. I turned, picked up my small duffel bag from the porch and walked away from the house. I moved into my $1 million villa. Wait, that's not right. The house was theirs legally. But the house I moved into was the one I had retained after selling my Detroit place. A small, fully paid-for condo in downtown Chicago I had kept just in case. It was a stroke of foresight, Martha's voice echoing in my memory. "Always have a bolt hole, dear." The condo, small but luxurious, was valued at over $1 million now. I hadn't needed their doghouse. I had my bolt hole. I spent the next month recovering physically and planning emotionally. My lawyer was already drafting letters regarding the original money I had loaned them for the down payment and my rights to see my grandchildren. The betrayal was a wound, but the condo was a sanctuary. I changed the locks, set up the security system, and began to live my quiet, independent life. I focused on my health, the therapy, and the realization that my heart was stronger than the family I had raised. Then, a month later, my phone rang. "Dad, it's me." "Adeline." "Yes." My voice was calm, neutral. "Carl?" "Carl left. He took his parents and all the money. The business loan they were supposed to get fell through, and the bank is foreclosing. I have nowhere to go. Can we stay with you?" She was calling from the street, no doubt, exactly where I had been a month ago. Her voice was cracked, raw, finally broken. "The doghouse is still available," I considered saying. But that wasn't my way. "You won't believe what I did." I took a deep breath, the air filling my mended lungs, and gave her my answer. No. I waited for the shock to register on the other end of the line. Dad. What do you mean, no? I'm your daughter. I have the children. Yes, you are my daughter, I replied calmly. And I have the paperwork for the condo I'm standing in right now, which is mine, free and clear. You and Carl and his parents made your choice a month ago when you moved me out 3 days after open-heart surgery. You showed me exactly how much my health, my comfort, and my presence mattered to you. And that answer was zero. But Dad, the kids, Tommy and Lily need a roof over their heads. They're your grandchildren, she pleaded. They are, I agreed, a sudden pain in my chest that wasn't surgical. And I will not let them be homeless. I paused, letting the silence hang heavy. I will let you be homeless, but not them. I laid out my terms, which were non-negotiable and absolute. I will take Tommy and Lily immediately. They will move in with me starting tonight. My lawyer will draw up temporary custody papers to ensure they are legally protected from Carl and his parents. You will sign them. The money you owe me for the down payment on the house will be repaid in full, or I will file suit against you for my financial protection. However, since you are now broke, I will waive the debt only if you comply with all other terms. You are not welcome to live in my home. However, I will pay for a small, furnished apartment nearby for you to live in and visit the children, under the condition that all visits are supervised and any and all financial support beyond the rent and a minimal food budget will cease immediately if you violate my rules for their safety and well-being. That apartment is to remind you that your actions a month ago showed that you are unfit to care for them without strict oversight. You want me to sign over my children for a subsidized apartment? She shrieked. No, Adeline. You signed over your right to be their sole provider when you valued your in-laws' convenience over my life and my presence. You have 1 hour to be at the lawyer's office to sign the documents, or I will have an emergency temporary custody order served on you while you're still sitting on the curb. The line went silent for a long time. Then a broken whisper, I'll be there. I had saved my grandchildren and established clear boundaries for my survival. The doghouse was empty, but my mansion was finally full of the only family who mattered, the innocent ones. I had traded a cruel betrayal for calculating, controlled forgiveness. The porch light created harsh shadows across everyone's faces. Frost was already forming on the car windshields. Neighbors' windows glowed warmly. Here the cold seemed to come from more than just the weather. Grandpa's hands are shaking, Lily whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. Are you cold? I wasn't cold. I was terrified. The suitcases in my bedroom, the turned-down photos, the prescription bottles, everything clicked into place as I watched these 5 adults arranged around me and the children. Adeline took a deep breath, stepping forward with purpose. Keys jangled nervously in her hand as she fixed me with a look I'd never seen before, determined, almost businesslike. Dad, we need to talk. There have been some changes while you were gone. The same chill I felt waking up in recovery hit my spine. What changes? And whose things are in my bedroom? Adeline glanced at Carl, who immediately found something fascinating about his shoes. She straightened her shoulders. Eldon and Vera needed a place to stay. Your room was available. Available? The word felt foreign in my mouth. But I live here. This is my home too. Vera stepped closer, her purse clutched like armor. We're family too. We have rights. We thought you'd understand, Carl mumbled. Understand what? My surgical scar began aching under the stress. That you gave away my bed while I was having heart surgery? Mommy, why are you being mean to Grandpa? Lily tugged on Adeline's coat. Adeline ignored her daughter. Actually, Dad, it's not your home. Not anymore. The words hit like physical blows. I gripped the porch railing for support. Where exactly do you expect me to sleep? My hands shook, not from cold now, but from rage barely contained. She pointed across the yard to a small wooden structure near the garage. We set up a space for you right there. My eyes followed her gesture to the doghouse. Comprehension dawned like a physical weight settling on my chest. You're joking. The words came out as a whisper. Do I look like I'm joking? Adeline's voice held no warmth, no recognition of our shared history. It's weatherproof. There's room for a sleeping bag. Tommy broke away from the group, running to stand beside me. That's not fair. Grandpa can't sleep outside. He's sick. Because, Adeline said with brutal practicality, Eldon and Vera are paying rent. You're not. The final piece of betrayal clicked into place. They were profiting from it. The $180,000 I had given them from selling my Detroit house. It's just until we figure things out, Carl said weakly. Figure what out? My voice grew stronger, fed by rising anger. How to house your father-in-law in a building meant for animals? I straightened my shoulders, looking directly at Adeline, the person who now saw me as less worthy of shelter than strangers paying rent. I see. I understand perfectly now. Dad, you're being dramatic. Adeline's defensive tone followed me up the porch steps. It's just temporary until what, Adeline? I paused at the door. Until you need money again. Inside, I moved methodically through what had been my room. I gathered my clothes, pushed aside their belongings. Tommy and Lily followed me, their questions a steady stream of confusion. Grandpa, where are you going? I have somewhere else to go, sweetheart. Don't worry about me. I found my wedding ring and Martha's engagement ring in the jewelry box. I slipped my ring back on. I found my family photos turned face down in the dresser drawer, and I tucked them into my small suitcase. From the living room came Adeline's voice, explaining to the children, Grandpa needs to stay somewhere else for a while. It's complicated. I put on my heaviest coat, and in the living room I dialed the taxi company with steady fingers. I need a ride to Michigan. Michigan? Dad. What's in Michigan? Adeline looked up sharply. I didn't answer. Carl and his parents exchanged glances. None of them had imagined I might have somewhere to go. They'd assumed I was helpless. The taxi driver helped me with my suitcase. I knelt one final time to hug my grandchildren. Will you call us? Lily whispered. Every day, I promised, meaning it. Sometimes adults make decisions that hurt people they love, I told Tommy honestly. But that doesn't mean the love disappears. Adeline stood frozen on the porch, watching. For a moment, I saw a flicker of doubt, but then Vera stepped beside her, possessive and satisfied, and the moment passed. The taxi pulled away into the winter night. Where to exactly in Michigan? The driver asked. I gave her the address I'd memorized from old letters. Olson Manor, New Buffalo. Snow crunched under the tires as we turned onto a long winding driveway. Headlights illuminated towering oak trees. This is some place, the driver murmured as the house came into view. Olson Manor rose from the darkness, 3 stories of weathered stone and tall windows. I paid the fare and stood alone in the snow. This wasn't charity. This was mine. Uncle Harlan's voice echoed in my memory, 3rd stone from the left post, Burl. Count carefully. I found the hiding spot and the old brass key. The front door opened with a satisfying weight. Inside, the air smelled of cedar and old leather. I flipped the main switches. Light flooded the foyer, revealing a crystal chandelier. I climbed the grand staircase slowly. My chest ached from surgery, but differently now, with expanding possibility. The master bedroom overlooked the lake. On the mahogany desk sat a manila envelope marked in Harlan's careful handwriting. For Burl, open if family disappoints you. My hand shook as I picked it up. Uncle Harlan, dead 5 years, had somehow known. He had predicted that the people I trusted most would prove themselves unworthy. I sat in his leather chair and realized I wasn't the powerless, homeless old man my family had discarded. I was Burl Olson, rightful heir to a mansion and resources they'd never imagined. The next morning, I opened the letter over coffee. Harlan's voice came through clearly. I knew this day would come. Burl, family often mistakes kindness for weakness. This house has been in our family for 80 years. It's yours by right and by heart. Don't let them guilt you. You've given enough. Day by day, the manor came alive under my care. The hardware store owner, the grocery clerk, the New Buffalo community welcomed me home. My phone buzzed constantly with calls from Adeline's number, messages I deleted without reading. For the first time in years, nobody needed anything from me. The diner waitress, Sarah, reminded me of childhood visits. Your uncle always said you'd end up here eventually. Said you had his sense of what really mattered. I established a routine that felt natural. Morning coffee watching the lake, light household tasks paced for recovery, afternoon reading in Uncle Harlan's library. My appetite returned. Sleep came easier in the comfortable bed that belongs to me. I was healing both physically and emotionally. My former life was now just a distant hum, a problem for others to solve. What steps do you think Burl should take next to secure his relationship with his grandchildren while maintaining his independence from Adeline? Energy levels built as stress melted away. Most important, confidence in my own worth slowly returned. For the first time in years, I wrote in the journal I'd started keeping, "Nobody needs anything from me except what I choose to give." Uncle Harlan's final wisdom became clearer with each passing day. He'd been right about everything. The family betrayal, my need for sanctuary, even the healing power of belonging somewhere by choice. The reflection in the hall mirror showed a different man, stronger, calmer, with the bearing of someone who owned where he stood. Car tires crunched on gravel outside, breaking my peaceful morning routine. Through the window, a familiar Honda pulled up the long driveway, followed by a second car I didn't recognize. 4 weeks of quiet mornings ended with that sound. I opened the front door before they could knock. My house, my rules, my position of power. How could you hide this from us? Adeline's voice cracked with fury and something that might have been panic. We're your family. The same way you hid your plans to throw me out like garbage, I replied calmly, not moving from the doorway. Carl stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the crystal chandelier visible behind me. Do you know what this place is worth? We could have helped you manage. Manage it into your bank account, you mean? I watched his face flush at the accuracy of my guess. We gave you a home for 2 years. Adeline pushed past me into the foyer. You gave me a corner of my own money. I paid for that house. The words came out steady, matter-of-fact. Dad, you're being unreasonable. We're family. Families share. Families protect each other, I interrupted. They don't point to doghouses when their relatives need shelter. Carl wandered through the rooms like an appraiser. This place has to be worth over $1 million. Think what we could do with that kind of money. The kids' college funds. The kids you used as excuses to manipulate me for years. Adeline tried tears next. I made one mistake, Dad. One bad day when I was overwhelmed. You're throwing away our entire relationship over one bad day. My voice remained calm, but something steely entered it. You planned this. You moved them into my room while I was having surgery. You pointed to a doghouse like I was less than human. That wasn't a mistake. That was who you really are. We need this, Carl said bluntly, abandoning any pretense. Our situation, it's worse than you know. We could lose everything. Then you should have thought of that before you lost me. The simplicity of it seemed to stun them both. This is our inheritance too, Adeline whispered desperately. No, I said, walking to the door and opening it wide. Your inheritance was my love, my help, my presence in your lives. You threw it away. This is mine. They left without another word. I closed the door firmly, understanding finally that the powerless old man they discarded no longer existed. 3 months later, I was reading in the library when the phone's harsh ring shattered the peace. Adeline glowed on the caller ID. Dad, please don't hang up, Adeline's voice cracked with panic. The bank has taken the house. We have nowhere to go. I don't hate you, Adeline. I'm just not your solution anymore. The in-laws left, she sobbed. Packed up and drove away the minute they heard about the foreclosure. Didn't even say goodbye to the kids. Help us, she begged. Please, I'll do anything. Sign papers, give you legal guardianship, whatever you want. Just help us. And Tommy and Lily, where are they during this crisis? I asked. At school, they don't know yet. Dad, I'm scared. Not for me. For Tommy and Lily. Tommy and Lily can come stay with me, I said finally. Indefinitely. What about Carl and me? We're their parents. Carl's voice came from the background. You're also the people who tried to make me live in a doghouse. Actions have consequences, Adeline. Yours and mine. We can change, she whispered desperately. Then prove it. Get jobs. Find a place to live. Show them what responsibility looks like. I laid out the terms. The children are welcome here. You and Carl need to figure out your own solutions. The children can visit you on weekends, assuming you have somewhere stable for them to visit. You're punishing us. I'm protecting them from chaos, from uncertainty, from adults who make children pay for their poor decisions. You'll always be their parents, but parenting is about providing stability, not just biology. However long it takes for you to become the parents they deserve instead of the ones you've been. Fine. The word came out broken. Yes, whatever you want. Just take care of them. 3 weeks had transformed the manor from quiet sanctuary to joyful family home. Tommy was helping me tend the vegetable garden we'd planted, while Lily painted pictures of cardinals at the patio table. Grandpa, the tomatoes are growing. Tommy called out. Good food and reduced stress were working their magic. Car tires on gravel announced the weekend visitors. Through the window, I watched Adeline and Carl climb out of a battered Honda Civic. Both looked thin, worn down by 3 weeks of minimum wage jobs and a cramped apartment. Mom? Lily dropped her paintbrush and ran toward the driveway. Tommy followed close behind. Burl successfully secured his independence and the safety of his grandchildren. To solidify this new arrangement and fully protect the children, he should take decisive steps focusing on legal stability and controlled reconciliation. Burl must immediately formalize his role to prevent Adeline and Carl from reclaiming the children on short notice and potentially using them as leverage again. Burl needs to hire an attorney in Michigan to file for temporary custody or joint legal custody with Adeline. This establishes his right to make decisions regarding the children's education and residence in New Buffalo. The lawyer should draft a formal agreement outlining the supervised weekend visits, tying visitation rights to Adeline and Carl, maintaining stable housing and consistent employment. This prevents erratic, disruptive visits. Burl must be careful not to let Adeline and Carl become dependent on him again. Any support for the children should be channeled through him, not directly to them, to avoid creating a new opportunity for financial manipulation. To ensure the children's emotional well-being, Burl needs to control the emotional environment and how Adeline and Carl interact with the children. Visits must remain supervised by Burl or another trusted adult, e.g. Mrs. Peterson from next door, for the near future. This protects the children from emotional distress or manipulation and holds the parents accountable. Burl should set clear rules for Adeline and Carl. No discussing financial problems or the foreclosure with the children. The visits must be positive, focused solely on reconnecting and being present. By focusing on these legal and relational boundaries, Burl can maintain the sanctuary he found, ensuring that Olsen Manor remains a stable home for Tommy and Lily, while requiring their parents to genuinely earn their way back into their children's lives. The reunion was always emotional, love complicated by confusion, loyalty divided between parents and the grandfather who'd become their protector. I opened the front door before they reached it, maintaining the boundaries I'd established. Adeline. Carl. How was the drive? Fine, thank you. Adeline's voice carried new humility. The designer clothes had been replaced by thrift store finds, her hands rough from restaurant work. The children look wonderful. They did, tanned, confident from stability, growing strong in the security the manor provided. Mom, wait until you see my room. Lily grabbed Adeline's hand. Grandpa let me pick out everything. And I'm learning to fix the fence, Tommy added proudly. Grandpa's teaching me to use real tools. I watched the family reunion from a careful distance. The children needed their parents' love, but they also needed to understand that actions had lasting consequences. The weekly visits served both purposes, maintaining family bonds while strengthening the security of their new living situation. Dad. Adeline approached me hesitantly. I want you to know we're trying. Really trying. I can see that. How are the jobs working out? Exhausting. Humbling, she managed a weak smile. But honest, we're learning what it means to actually earn our living instead of depending on family members you were willing to discard, I finished quietly. Her face flushed, but she nodded. Yes, that. The afternoon passed peacefully. Carl helped Tommy with a birdhouse, while Adeline assisted Lily with her painting. I observed from my reading chair. This was how family should work. Everyone contributes, everyone values, everyone protected. When evening came and they prepared to leave, both children hugged their parents tightly, but showed no inclination to pack bags and follow. Security had become more important than sentiment. We'll see you next weekend, Adeline promised, her voice carefully controlled. Drive safely, I replied, meaning it. After their taillights disappeared, I found both children in the library. Tommy was reading adventure stories while Lily worked on a jigsaw puzzle featuring cardinals. Grandpa. Lily looked up. Are Mom and Dad going to be okay? They're learning important lessons, I told her honestly. People sometimes have to lose things they thought they couldn't live without to discover what really matters. Tommy closed his book and looked at me seriously. Like how you learned you didn't need to live in someone else's house to be happy? The wisdom of children never ceases to amaze me. Exactly like that. Later, after tucking them into beds in rooms that were truly theirs, I sat in Uncle Harlan's chair and opened his journal to the final entry I discovered. The greatest gift we can give children is not shelter from life's storms, but the strength to weather them with dignity. Burl will understand this someday. He'd been right about everything. Family wasn't just blood, it was choice, commitment, and protection. Justice wasn't revenge, it was allowing consequences to teach lessons that words couldn't convey. Outside, spring rain began pattering against the windows. Inside, two children slept peacefully in their own home, protected by a grandfather who'd learned the difference between kindness and weakness. The manor felt complete. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right. Thank you for watching.